She had survived everything: poverty, abuse, betrayal. She had crossed a highway with 36 cents and turned herself into a legend. She had outlasted everyone who said she was finished. She had buried her pain and built something extraordinary from the rubble. But there are some things that no amount of strength can prepare you for. There are some losses that don't announce themselves. They just arrive. On December 8, 2022, Tina Turner's youngest son, Ronnie, collapsed on the sidewalk outside his home in the San Fernando Valley. He was 62 years old. He was gone before the ambulance arrived. And when Tina Turner posted her tribute on Instagram, "Ronnie, you left the world far too early," something shifted in the world, because everyone who read it understood that this was not just grief. This was a mother who had already buried one son, and now she was burying another. To understand this story, you have to understand who Tina Turner was as a mother, not as an icon, not as a performer, as a mother. She had 4 sons, Craig, Ronnie, and 2 adopted sons, Ike Jr. and Michael. 4 boys, 4 different personalities, 4 lives shaped by a childhood that was, to say the least, complicated. Growing up in the shadow of Ike and Tina Turner was not a simple thing. The chaos of life on the road, the hotels, the tour buses, the late nights, the performances that never stopped, and underneath all of it, the tension, the fear, the way their mother sometimes looked when she thought no one was watching. Tina did everything she could for them. She protected them the only way she knew how, by staying on that stage, by keeping the money coming in, by keeping Ike focused on the music and not on her. When she finally left in 1976, her sons were teenagers. They had watched their mother be everything to everyone, and they had watched it cost her everything too. Craig Turner was Tina's firstborn. Quiet, introverted, a man who inherited his mother's sensitivity, but perhaps not her armor. He built a career in real estate and lived a deliberately private life. In the spring of 2018, Craig called his mother with news. He had met someone, a woman he cared deeply about. He sounded happy, truly happy. He told Tina he wanted her to meet his new girlfriend at his 60th birthday celebration. Years later, Tina would remember that conversation. He said, "Mother, I'm so happy. I'm really happy now." On July 3, 2018, Tina was in Paris attending Fashion Week. Thousands of miles away, authorities arrived at Craig's home in Studio City. He was 59 years old. Craig Turner had died by suicide. Tina received the call in Paris. She flew home to a son who would never reach his 60th birthday. Later, she admitted she never fully understood what drove him to that point. "I still don't know what took him to the edge." She scattered his ashes off the California coast, and afterward she posted a single sentence: "My saddest moment as a mother." She thought that was the worst pain a mother could experience. She was wrong. Ronnie Turner was Tina's youngest biological child. Music ran through his blood. He played bass and spent years around the same world that had made his parents famous. He was also the only child shared by Tina and Ike Turner. In 1993, when Hollywood adapted Tina's life story into the film What's Love Got to Do with It, Ronnie appeared on screen. Watching his own family's history unfold before cameras, there was something uniquely painful about that experience, something only a child from that family could fully understand. In 2007, the year Ike Turner died, Ronnie married French singer Afida Turner. They stayed together for 15 years. Afida often described him as her best friend, her baby, her everything. But in the final weeks of his life, Ronnie was struggling. He had been diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic colon cancer. The disease had already spread, and according to reports, he had known about it for only a few weeks. Then came December 8, 2022, a cold Thursday morning in the San Fernando Valley. Someone called 911. Ronnie had collapsed outside his home. Witnesses attempted CPR. For a brief moment, there was hope. Then he stopped breathing. He was pronounced dead at the scene. He was 62 years old. Before the official announcements even arrived, Afida Turner shared her heartbreak online. She wrote, "My husband, my best friend, my baby. I was your mummy, your nurse, your little monster. I did my best to the end. This time, I was not able to save you." The message was devastating, and it carried another painful truth. Craig was gone. Ike was gone. Tina's sister Aline was gone. Now Ronnie was gone too. Within little more than a decade, Tina Turner had lost her sister, her former husband, and both of her sons. The morning after Ronnie died, Tina posted her own farewell. She wrote, "Ronnie, you left the world far too early. In sorrow I close my eyes and think of you, my beloved son." That was all. No press release, no carefully crafted statement. Just a mother speaking directly to her child. Millions of people shared those words, not because Tina Turner was a celebrity, but because anyone who had ever experienced loss understood exactly what she meant. What most people didn't realize was that Tina herself was fighting for her own life. Years earlier, she had suffered a stroke. She had battled intestinal cancer. Her kidneys had begun to fail. Eventually, her husband, Erwin Bach, donated one of his own kidneys to save her life. Think about that for a moment. The woman mourning her youngest son was herself living because another person had given her a second chance. She was grieving Ronnie while carrying her own fragile survival story inside the same body. Ronnie Turner died on December 8, 2022. Tina Turner died on May 24, 2023. Just 5 months and 16 days later. Those close to her described her final months as peaceful. She lived in Küsnacht, Switzerland, a beautiful home overlooking Lake Zurich, a place filled with art, silence, and the kind of peace she had spent an entire lifetime searching for. She had her Buddhist practice, her chanting, her discipline, the rituals that had carried her through every dark chapter of her life. And she had Erwin Bach, the man who had loved her quietly and completely since 1985, the man who donated a kidney to save her life, the man who stayed beside her through every challenge without asking for recognition. In her later years, Tina often said she had finally learned what real love felt like. It had taken most of her life to find it, but it had been worth the wait. On May 24, 2023, Tina Turner died peacefully at home. She was 83 years old. She had survived abuse, poverty, betrayal, illness. She had survived almost everything life could throw at a person. And somehow, after all of it, she found peace. Her team's statement was simple. Tina Turner, the queen of rock and roll, has died peacefully at her home in Switzerland after a long illness. There is a photograph from the early 1970s. Tina standing with her sons, Craig, Ronnie, Ike Jr., and Michael. She is smiling, young, beautiful, standing proudly in the center of the people she loved most. Years later, she would outlive two of those boys. She would bury them both, and she would honor them in the only way she knew how. Quietly, honestly, without ornament. My saddest moment as a mother. Ronnie, you left the world far too early. We remember Tina Turner as a music legend, the voice, the energy, the performances, and we should. But behind all of that was a mother, a woman who worried about her children, who noticed the happiness in Craig's voice during their final conversations, who understood the pain in Afita's message the moment she read it. A woman who carried both joy and grief until her very last day. If this story moved you, if you've ever had to say goodbye to someone before you were ready, share it with someone who may need it today. And subscribe for more untold stories, because sometimes the most important stories aren't about fame. They're about what it means to be human.
It was July 3rd, 1976. America was one day away from its bicentennial celebration. Fireworks were being prepared, flags were going up, and somewhere in downtown Dallas, Texas, a woman was crouching behind trash cans in a dark hotel alley, bleeding, trembling, alone. She was supposed to be on stage in a few hours. She was one of the most famous performers in the world, and she had 36 cents in her pocket. Her name was Anna Mae Bullock. The world knew her as Tina Turner. And that night, July 3rd, 1976, was the night she decided she would rather die crossing a highway than spend one more minute as Ike Turner's wife. To understand that night in Dallas, you have to go back to the beginning, not to the stages, not to the spotlights, to a small town called Nutbush, Tennessee. Population, barely anything. Anna Mae Bullock was born in 1939 to sharecropper parents who were so poor. They picked cotton from the fields just to survive. When she was still a child, her parents split up. Then they left. Not metaphorically. They left. Anna Mae and her sister were handed to their grandmother. Years later, Tina Turner would say, "There was no such thing as a mother's love in my childhood. She found her escape in music, in church choirs, in the feel of a melody moving through her body. Music wasn't something she chose. It was the only door that was open." Then, as a teenager in St. Louis, she met a man named Ike Turner. Ike was sharp, charismatic, already a name in the R&B world. He heard Anna Mae sing one night, and something shifted in his eyes. He said, "I'm gonna make you a star." What he didn't say was the price. Was the price. By the early 1960s, the Ike and Tina Turner Revue was burning up stages across America. The music was electric. Tina's voice, raw, fierce, untamable, was unlike anything audiences had ever heard. In 1960, their single A Fool in Love hit #2 on the R&B charts. The crowds got bigger. The venues got bigger. The name Tina Turner grew larger than life. But behind the name, behind the sequins, and the spotlight, something was happening that no one outside that world could see. Ike Turner was not just her husband. He was her controller. He had given her the name Tina Turner. He had trademarked it, just in case, he once said. She didn't work out and he needed to replace her. He decided what she wore. He decided when she performed. He decided what happened to her body. Tina would later write in her memoir, I, Tina. I cannot remember a time during our marriage when I did not have a black eye. He broke her jaw. He burned her with hot coffee. He beat her before concerts, after concerts, in hotel rooms, in cars, in front of their children. And then the lights would go up, and Tina Turner would walk onto that stage and sing like her life depended on it. Because in some ways, it did. This went on for 16 years. 16 years of hiding bruises under makeup. 16 years of smiling for photographs. 16 years of performing sold-out shows. And coming home to terror. She had 4 children. She had no money of her own. Ike controlled every dollar. She had tried to leave before. Every time, he found her. By 1976, Tina Turner was one of the most recognizable female voices in American music, and she was completely trapped. July 1976, summer tour, Dallas, Texas. The limo pulled away from the airport. Ike and Tina were in the back seat. Something small set him off. It always started small. By the time the limo reached the Statler Hotel in downtown Dallas, Tina's face was bloodied. They checked in. No one at the front desk said a word about the bruises. No one ever did. Up in the room, the night got worse. But something was different this time. Tina Turner, somewhere deep inside herself, made a decision. She had made it before and pulled back. Tonight, she didn't pull back. She waited. She waited until Ike's breathing slowed, until the room went quiet, until the only sound was the distant hum of Dallas at night. Then she moved. She grabbed a small toiletries case, just what fit in her hand. She tied a scarf around her head to cover her face. She walked out of the hotel room, past the elevators, down through the kitchen, out a back door, and into the alley. That's where she crouched behind the trash cans. She stayed there for several minutes, completely still, listening, waiting, terrified. Then she ran. She didn't look for a taxi. She didn't call anyone. She ran toward the highway, Interstate 30, the wide, fast, brutal stretch of road that separated the Statler from the Ramada Inn across the way. It was night. Cars were moving fast. Tina Turner stepped onto that highway and started running. A truck came at her from out of the darkness. The horn blared, deafening, massive. She felt the air from the truck wash over her body. She later said, "It felt like it was over me." She didn't stop. She kept running until her feet hit the other sidewalk.